Hey everyone, it's Jim
and Charles
from Valves & More, an online vintage tube store. And today in Tube Lab number 245, we're going to be talking about dual concentric speakers. But first, caution everyone, electronics and tube amplifiers can have very high voltages present, which can be lethal. Exercise extreme caution when working around them. Always consult a professional technician when in doubt. Well, after many years in development, we're calling our prototype open baffle dipole speakers finished. And that means they need to be finished, which involves filling, sanding, priming, painting, and varnishing. Oh, lucky me. But that introduced a whole new problem. With the OBs out of the system, what would we install to replace them? And that's the subject of today's video, our new KEF Q900 speakers, at least new to us, with what KEF calls the UniQ driver. The UniQ is KEF's own development of what is a dual concentric or coaxial driver arrangement with a tweeter mounted dead center in the mid-range driver. This isn't new technology. It was first introduced by Altec Lansing in the USA and Tannoy in the UK in about the mid-1940s. Now, in theory, this should give us the best aligned driver arrangement possible, which should produce a very clean time and phase aligned mid-range and treble. So I've got a prop up here, and this is actually a nice paper cone German 8-inch woofer, and this is a non-coaxial speaker. So underneath this is just a vanity cap or a finishing cover, if you will, and it's just glued in here on the cone. But if we were to lift this off, you'd actually see the voice coil is underneath here. And in the case of a dual concentric driver, they actually put the tweeter right in here. Now there's other arrangements, but that's the most common thing, is to run a mid-range that is 4 to, let's say, well, actually the Tannoys go all the way up to, I think they have a 16-inch. They go at least to 12 inches.
That's a big mid-range driver.
Yeah, and I would love to find a pair of Tannoys, but yeah, that's outside of my audio budget and most people's.
Maybe someday.
Well, the king has got, that's the King of England, or King of the United Kingdom. He's got a pair of Tannoys that his mother bought and put into, I think, in Windsor Castle, and that's their daily listener. So yeah, pretty exciting. Hopefully, he didn't get rid of them. So, anyways, let's head over to the music room and have a look at these KEFs, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. Okay, welcome to the music room, and we've got the new KEFs in system, and we've just done some early listening tests, and they sound really good. And you can see here in the shot, the uppermost speaker is the UniQ driver, or dual concentric, or coaxial driver, whatever you want to call it. And you can see quite clearly in the middle there's a tweeter mounted, and there is a type of a diffuser mounted over that. I forget what they call that thing. But around the outside of it, that is the mid-range cone. And there's a bit of, the suspension has a bit of bumping on it, probably to act as a bit of a diffuser, because you can get problems on the edge of a cone. And the sound is really quite impressive. In order to understand why a dual concentric driver can make a big difference, you have to remember that 90% of all recorded music's in the mid-range. So, and then all of the cues, a lot of the cues anyways, that help us to help our ears and our brains to spatially locate instruments and voices on stage, their width, their depth, their height, come from the treble. So, and the mid-range, but a lot of it comes from the treble. So, if your treble is not aligned with your mid-range, then you're going to have some problems. Now there are ways, if you remember the way our open baffles are designed, you can really tell that the tweeter is mounted very close to the mid-range driver. I mean, it's literally right on top of the mid-range driver, and the tweeter is aligned so that at the seating position, the sound waves from the mid-range and the tweeter arrive at your ears at the same time in the same place. So yeah, there are ways of working around it, but this is technically is probably the superior method of doing it. And down lower in the box, there's actually 3 woofers, but only one of them is an active driver. The other 2 are passive drivers, and what they do is help augment the woofer. And the reason they've done it this way is they didn't want to use a port. If you put a port on, you can tune the port to a low frequency, and it'll help augment the bottom end. But you can get chuffing through the port, and you sort of have a hard bottom end if you do it that way. With passive radiators, they basically take the place of that port, and you eliminate the chuffing, and you end up with a true sealed box, a reflex design. So, and this is actually fairly old technology, but and you don't see that many speakers designed this way anymore, and that brings us to sort of the advantages and disadvantages of the UniQ driver, or a dual concentric kind of a driver. The technology itself has been around now for 80 years, I guess, close to 80 years, very close. And it's gone through many generations of innovation. But it's still fairly complex to build, so the drivers themselves are always going to be quite a bit more expensive than a standard driver or a mid-range and tweeter separate driver combination. And the technology is also not a given. So companies like KEF and Tannoy are still doing development work, and of course that costs money. If there is a small mistake in the manufacturing, you're going to really hear it. And of course, there's no easy way to fix it either. So you can't just pop out the tweeter easily, at least not in this type of driver configuration. Some of them are actually loaded through the back and screwed right into inside the center of the magnet assembly. And those, of course, are a lot easier to replace. That's more of a commercial type of driver. So Charles has actually made a recording. Now, what we're doing is a near-field recording. So when you do a near-field recording, you're trying to eliminate much of the room. And in this case, we're even trying to eliminate the bass frequencies because they're going to be down low. And we didn't want a lot of room interaction. So what we've done is we've put the microphone about a foot away, and it's centered right on the middle of the mid-range treble combination here. So you're going to just ignore the fact that you're not going to hear a lot of bass frequencies. There's a little bit in the recording, but what I wanted you to listen to is the combination of the treble and mid-range combined right at a near-field position, just out of interest. Okay, well, let's get the recording going, and in a minute after the recording, we'll see you back, and we'll take a look at what came in this week.
George Benson.
Okay, well, we haven't had a whole lot of stuff coming in lately, but we do have a big order that's going to be in for next week that has a whole bunch of great power tubes.
And we also actually, believe it or not, found some quite a few Mullard XF2. That's probably the best EL34 ever made, which is just in time because our XF2 inventory is as low as it's ever been, going all the way back to the first days of when I went professional and this opened up the store. So
yeah, it's pretty low. So hopefully we'll be able to make up some match quads with what we have here already, which isn't much left, and what we have coming in. But we'll be sure to let you know about that next week. On top of those, though, we have a whole bunch of really great 6080s coming in as well. We're actually kind of low on stock on a few of them because of the OTL headphone amp going out to test builders.
Yeah, we shipped a lot of free 6080s to test builders.
Yeah,
in fact,
and some extra premium ones too.
Yeah, in fact, the test builders should be starting to get their boxes sometime soon and start a building, which is always a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. But we did make up one really nice close match pair of probably one of the best 6SN7s ever made. That's the Sylvania GTAs.
Now, these are good used. As you can see, they're testing really nice and tight. And these are fairly early versions, so they're not the earliest version of the GTA that Sylvania made, but it's still a fairly early tube. Yes. And the GTAs will run in all modern circuits, so this is one of the earliest tubes that we can recommend for most amplifiers out there.
Yeah, it's a third generation. It's the second generation of the modern type. And in fact, this one's got a mark on the glass. With earlier tubes, it's not unusual to see molding marks and things like that on the glass. Mm-hmm. It, of course, doesn't affect the sound in any way. And you might notice that the green labeling is really faded. Even brand new old stock in the new old stock, new in the box examples that we get in the paint that they were using for the labels.
It wears off really easily, especially if it's loose in a box and it's moving.
I think it's fading away.
Probably a bit of that too.
Yeah. So
unless they're very carefully stored, you tend to see the labels wearing like that. But these are in there as used tubes. We don't get a lot of these GTA angled, and I'm sure somebody's going to probably snap them up pretty quickly.
Now, where they excel is with a lovely balanced sound that has a nice, I would say, some of the nicest warmth you'll ever hear in the mid-range. And if your system is almost there, but it's just a little bit flat, then an older GTA like the Sylvania, that can put you over the top. And yeah, and they're good and reliable, long-lived tubes. Yep. But they're almost at the point of extinction now. We used to bring in dozens of them.
Yeah, and now we're celebrating getting a matched pair of used ones.
Yeah. So, well, these are lightly used. I don't think they have very many hours on them. So, anyways, they're in the store. And if you stayed all the way till the end, I've got some discount codes to help you out. We can reach almost everybody around the world with flat rate $20 shipping. And if your order is $150 or more, after discount, the shipping's on us, folks. Stay safe, everyone. This is Jim.
And Charles.
Signing off. Cheers, everyone.